For the longest time in my life, I thought being kind was enough. And I don't mean kindness as a value or an act of compassion. I mean being too kind. The kind of kindness where you silence yourself so someone else can speak, where you shrink so someone else can shine, where you give and give and give until you forget what it felt like to receive. Some of us grew up believing that love is earned by being agreeable, that our worth is determined by how much we can endure, how little we complain, how often we say yes when everything inside us is screaming no. And we carry that belief into adulthood like invisible luggage, heavy, unspoken, and deeply personal. But here's the truth no one tells you. Being too kind is not a virtue. It's often a wound. I know that may sound harsh, especially in a world where we are constantly told to be soft, to be understanding, to forgive, to empathize. But somewhere along the way, kindness stopped being a choice and became a survival tactic. We started believing that if we were just kind enough, people would finally stay or stop hurting us or see our value. And that's not kindness, that's fear in disguise. I've been there. I've stayed silent in rooms where I should have spoken. I've smiled at people who disrespected me. I've bent over backwards for relationships that never bent even slightly in my direction. And each time, I told myself I was doing the right thing, that this is what good people do, that kindness would always come back around. But all it did was take more of me. And maybe that's the real problem. We are taught how to love others, but no one teaches us how to love ourselves without guilt. We are taught how to be kind to others, but never how to be kind to ourselves without feeling selfish. At some point I had to ask myself, what does it mean to be kind without being invisible? What does it mean to be giving without being depleted? The answer, I realized, was boundaries. Now, boundaries aren't walls. They're not about shutting people out or being cold or distant. They are about knowing where you end and someone else begins. They are about honoring your own needs and feelings as much as you honor someone else's. But here's the tricky part. When you're used to overgiving, boundaries feel like betrayal. When you're used to abandoning yourself for others, showing up for yourself feels wrong. People who benefited from your lack of boundaries will resist your growth. They will call you selfish, distant, difficult. They'll say, "You've changed," like it's a bad thing. But it's not. It's necessary. Because every time you silence your voice to keep the peace, you are at war with yourself. Every time you tolerate what hurts you in the name of kindness, you become complicit in your own pain. And kindness, true kindness, should never come at the cost of your dignity. You don't have to explain yourself to everyone. You don't have to be liked by everyone. You don't have to carry the weight of everyone else's emotion. You are allowed to choose yourself without making excuses for it. And no, that doesn't make you arrogant. It doesn't make you unkind. It makes you self-aware. It makes you strong. But I understand it's hard. Especially when you've been conditioned to believe that your job is to make everyone around you comfortable, that your silence is grace, that your compliance is love. And maybe for a while it was. Maybe that was the only way you knew how to survive. But survival is not the same as living. And you deserve more than a life where you're constantly putting yourself last. The world doesn't need more people who never say no. The world needs people who are clear, grounded, and whole. People who lead with both compassion and courage. People who know that kindness is not about sacrificing yourself. It's about standing in your truth with gentleness and strength. And strength, contrary to what you might think, doesn't always roar. Sometimes strength is the quiet no you whisper when everything in your past tells you to say yes. Sometimes strength is walking away from a situation that no longer serves you. Sometimes strength is sitting with your discomfort instead of running from it. So, to the ones who are too kind, the ones who apologize for things that aren't their fault, the ones who always go the extra mile even when they're running on empty, I see you, I know your heart, I know your intentions, but I also want to remind you that you matter. Not just what you do for others, not just how much you give, not just how well you hold everyone else together. You, your dreams, your desires, your needs, your voice. You are allowed to take up space. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to want more. You don't have to carry every burden just because you're strong enough to. You don't have to absorb other people's chaos just because you've learned how to stay calm. You don't have to dim your light just because someone else is uncomfortable with your shine. Being too kind often comes from a place of not wanting to lose people. But what's the point of holding on to relationships that only exist when you abandon yourself? The people who truly love you, who see you, respect you, value you, they won't leave because you set boundaries. They won't punish you for choosing your peace. They won't manipulate your kindness for their convenience. So stop fearing the loss of people who benefit from your pain. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is choose yourself unapologetically. Not because you're better than anyone, not because you don't care, but because for once you've decided to be kind to yourself first. And maybe some people won't understand that. Maybe they'll call you cold. Maybe they'll say you've changed. Maybe they'll even walk away. Let them. Because what's waiting for you on the other side of that discomfort is freedom. Freedom from people pleasing. Freedom from guilt, freedom from the constant need to prove your goodness by sacrificing your joy. You were not born to be a mirror for other people's comfort. You were not born to bend yourself into shapes that fit their needs. You were born to stand tall, to speak clearly, to love deeply, but also wisely. And if that means you're no longer the too kind version of yourself that people once relied on, so be it. You haven't become less, you've become true. So stop being too kind, start being whole. Start being real, start being someone who chooses kindness not out of fear, but from a place of strength and clarity. Because the world doesn't just need your kindness, it needs your truth. And your truth is